All right, welcome back to the deep dive. So, you're prepping for a trip, getting ready to travel.
It's exciting.
Super exciting, right? You want to make sure you're ready, your English is all set to make the most of that experience.
Yeah.
So we are going on a deep dive into some essential travel vocabulary.
That's fun.
We've got a great resource here. It's nicely organized, breaks it down, first by location,
Okay.
airport, hotel, restaurant, you name it. And then within each location, you've got beginner, intermediate, advanced.
I like that.
Yeah, it gives you options, right?
Yeah.
Plus, it even has some sample dialogue, so you can actually hear these phrases in action, hear how they're used.
That's a really practical approach.
Yeah.
Because honestly, learning a language for travel, it's not about, reciting grammar rules perfectly.
Yeah.
It's about confidently handling those real-world situations.
Exactly.
Right.
So let's picture ourselves. We're at the airport.
Okay.
Maybe a little overwhelming, even for seasoned travelers.
Oh, it's true. Busy place. Lots going on.
Yeah, so many people, different languages.
But even having a few basic phrases down can just make such a difference in how smoothly things go.
For sure.
Especially check-in, baggage claim.
Yeah.
Keeping it simple and direct avoids confusion.
Yeah. Absolutely. And you know what I love about these intermediate phrases? They cover those little things that just make a flight more comfortable.
It's that.
Like how to request an aisle seat.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one to have, for sure. Nobody wants the middle seat on a long flight.
No, you don't. And speaking of potential stress points, knowing how to ask about excess baggage fees,
Oh, yeah.
that could save you some trouble, save you some money at the counter.
Definitely.
Yeah. Now, these advanced phrases, they really show you're a seasoned traveler,
Okay.
like confirming baggage allowances beforehand or, navigating that priority boarding process.
You've thought ahead. You're prepared.
Shows you're prepared, yeah. What stands out to you about the sample dialogues for this section?
Well, I think the one where you're asking about baggage allowance policy is good.
Yeah, okay. Let's try it out.
Okay.
Imagine you're at the check-in counter. Excuse me. Could you please confirm the baggage allowance policy for international flights?
Certainly. You're allowed 2 checked bags weighing up to 23 kilograms each.
Perfect. See, you're speaking the language of the airport. All right, so we've made it through check-in security. Let's fast forward. We've arrived at the hotel.
Okay.
This is another place where just clear communication can really elevate the experience.
For sure. At that beginner level, it's all about the essentials, right?
Yeah.
Checking in, getting your key, figuring out when checkout is.
Yeah. And it's so important to have your reservation details handy, too, in case there's a mix-up.
Good point.
Now, we level up to the intermediate phrases. I'm seeing some really handy ones here.
Like what?
Like asking if breakfast is included.
Oh, always a good one.
Key question. And, just don't be afraid to advocate for your needs, whether it's asking for extra towels, inquiring about amenities. Remember, being polite but assertive can make your stay more comfortable.
Absolutely.
Okay, now these advanced phrases.
All right.
Really impressive.
What do we got?
Requesting late checkout, inquiring about concierge services.
You're traveling in style.
You are. What I like about these phrases is that they show you're interested in more than just the basics,
Yeah.
Like asking for local attraction recommendations, it shows that you want to really experience the destination.
Like a local.
Yeah, like a local. All right, let's put some of these advanced phrases into action.
Okay.
Imagine you've just arrived at your hotel. You want to make the most of your stay.
Okay.
You walk up to the desk, you say, "Good evening, I have a reservation under your name, and if you have a moment, I'd love to get some recommendations for local attractions, especially anything within walking distance."
Of course. Here's your key. We also have this great map highlighting nearby points of interest. There's a fantastic local market just a few blocks away. I highly recommend checking it out.
Look at you, settling right in. You've mastered the airport, the hotel, but now I think it's time we talk about one of the best parts of any trip.
What's that?
Food.
Food, absolutely.
It's such an incredible window into a culture.
It is.
And even if your vocabulary is limited, having a few basic phrases can make your dining experiences so much more enjoyable.
For sure.
Ordering from a menu, asking about the price, just navigating those initial interactions can feel so much smoother.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how much a simple please and thank you can go, even if that's all the local language you know.
It does. It shows respect.
It does. It shows respect, a willingness to engage.
Yeah.
Now, these intermediate phrases, they're starting to get into some fun territory.
What are we talking about?
Like asking about the specialty of the house.
Oh, good one.
Right.
Yeah.
What a great way to try something new, something exciting.
You discover those hidden gems that way, not always in the guidebooks.
You do, you do. And requesting recommendations from your server,
Oh, yeah.
it shows that you're open to exploring local flavors.
It does. It shows a willingness to go beyond your comfort zone,
Yeah.
which can lead to some amazing experiences.
Some really memorable culinary experiences. What are your thoughts on the advanced phrases in this section?
Well, I'm impressed with the level of detail here.
Yeah.
Handling dietary restrictions,
Yeah.
inquiring about wine pairings. You're a foodie expert.
You are.
It's great. And, even if you don't consider yourself a foodie, having a phrase ready for, if your steak's undercooked,
Oh, yeah.
that can be helpful. It's
Yeah.
about being able to communicate your needs clearly, but politely.
Yeah.
Even in a slightly awkward situation.
Yeah. And this sample dialogue is a perfect example of that. Let's imagine you're at a lovely restaurant, but you need to check about vegetarian options.
Okay.
Excuse me, are there any vegetarian options on the menu?
Yes, of course. We have a delightful lentil stew and a roasted vegetable pasta that are both quite popular.
So polite and helpful. Now, with our stomachs full, our confidence boosted, I think it's time we head out and explore the city.
Sounds like an adventure.
Yeah. This section is all about giving you the tools to navigate a new place with confidence. From basic directions to figuring out the best way to get somewhere, we've got you covered.
Great. Yeah, and sometimes those unexpected detours lead to the most interesting discoveries.
That's so true. Speaking of detours, I'm really curious about these intermediate phrases for asking about alternative routes or reporting delays.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you're anticipating the unexpected.
Exactly. Because, let's be real, travel rarely goes exactly according to plan.
Right.
Being able to adapt on the fly, that's crucial.
It is. It is. What are your thoughts on the advanced phrases for this section?
Well, these definitely take things to the next level.
Yeah.
Booking private cars, understanding toll systems, even handling car rentals.
You're a transportation pro.
It's all about giving you that flexibility to explore a destination on your own terms.
I like.
Whether you're sticking to public transport or venturing off the beaten path, having these phrases in your toolkit, it can really empower you.
Okay, let's put our transportation vocabulary to the test.
All right.
Imagine we're at a bustling train station. We need to catch our next train.
Okay.
Excuse me, what time does the next train to your destination depart?
The next train departs from Platform 5 at 10:15 a.m. Would you like me to show you where that is?
Wow, we're on our way. Now, we've tackled getting around, but there's another essential part of travel we need to talk about.
What's that?
Shopping.
Oh, yes.
Shopping.
It's such a fun way to experience a new place, whether you're browsing local markets for souvenirs or, seeking out those one-of-a-kind treasures.
Absolutely.
And this section has phrases for every kind of shopping experience, from, simple inquiries to those more nuanced interactions.
Even at that beginner level, having those essential phrases down can make a big difference.
Yeah.
Asking about prices, sizes, do they accept credit cards? It helps you navigate those initial exchanges. Yeah. And I think it's important to remember that, even if you don't speak the local language fluently, showing that you're making an effort to communicate respectfully, it can really enhance those interactions.
I agree.
It can. It can. Now, the intermediate phrases, they're all about engaging with the shopping experience more deeply.
Okay.
Expressing interest, asking for assistance, even trying on clothes. It takes things to the next level.
Yeah.
I love how practical these phrases are. Let's be honest, we've all been in that situation where you need to ask, do you have this in a different size? Or can I try this on? Having those phrases ready can be a lifesaver.
It's true. It's about being able to communicate your needs clearly and confidently.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on the advanced phrases here?
Well, these are for the true shopping aficionado. Bargaining, inquiring about specific items, even complimenting the craftsmanship.
You're a master negotiator.
And it's about more than just making a purchase.
Yeah.
It's about appreciating the artistry, the cultural significance behind the objects you're buying. Complimenting someone's work can create a special connection.
It's those little moments of human connection that can make a trip so memorable.
For sure.
Now, we've talked about a lot of positive travel scenarios, but it's also important to be prepared for those, just in case moments.
Right.
So let's talk about handling emergencies.
Okay, this is where clear, concise communication is absolutely crucial.
Yeah.
Knowing a few key phrases can make all the difference in getting the help you need, especially in a stressful situation.
Absolutely. At the beginner level, it's about mastering those essential phrases. calling for help, explaining that you need a doctor, reporting a theft.
Right.
It's about knowing how to get your message across in those critical moments.
And even if you don't know a lot of, medical terminology,
Right.
being able to convey some basic information is so helpful.
It is. It is. The intermediate phrases cover things like describing symptoms, explaining allergies, finding the nearest pharmacy.
It's like having a little mini first aid kit
Yes.
of essential phrases.
Ready to go. What stands out to you in the advanced phrases for this section?
Well, these phrases are about being prepared for, more complex medical situations,
Okay.
describing pre-existing conditions, requesting specific medications, even understanding insurance coverage.
Yeah,
It can really put your mind at ease.
it can. It's about being proactive and informed, which can be so empowering, especially when you're far from home.
Exactly.
So let's imagine a scenario where you need to seek medical attention.
Okay.
You walk up to the desk and you say, "Excuse me, I need to see a doctor. I'm feeling unwell and I think I might have a fever."
Certainly, I can help you with that. Is
Yeah.
there a particular type of doctor you need to see?
See, having those phrases ready can make a potentially stressful situation so much more manageable.
Absolutely.
Now, let's shift gears and talk about something a little lighter.
Okay.
Social situations.
Ah, yes. Social interactions, such a vital part of travel.
They are. They allow you to connect with people, learn about different cultures, and create those lasting memories. And this section covers the whole spectrum of social interactions, from basic greetings to those more, in-depth conversations.
At the beginner level, it's all about those foundational phrases. Saying hello, introducing yourself, expressing basic courtesies.
Yeah.
Those are the building blocks of any social interaction.
They are, and I think it's easy to underestimate the power of those simple greetings. Even a warm smile and a hello can go a long way in establishing a connection.
Especially when you're in a new environment.
Yeah.
Those small gestures can make you feel more comfortable and approachable.
They do, they do. Now, the intermediate phrases are about taking those conversations a step further.
Okay.
Asking questions, sharing information about yourself, even expressing opinions.
It's about engaging with the people you meet and learning from their perspectives.
It is. It is. I'm really enjoying these advanced phrases for social situations.
Yeah,
They take things to a whole new level.
they do, don't they? Expressing gratitude, giving compliments, even engaging in a little bit of lighthearted banter. It shows you're really comfortable with the language.
It's about connecting with people on a deeper level and embracing those cultural nuances.
I like that.
Let's try out one of these advanced phrases.
Okay.
Imagine you've just met someone new. You want to keep the conversation going.
Okay.
You say, "Hello, my name is your name. It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm visiting from your city. What's your favorite thing about living here?"
It's lovely to meet you too. I love the vibrant energy of this city. There's always something happening, and the people are so welcoming.
Wonderful. You've sparked a conversation that could lead to all sorts of new discoveries.
Exactly.
Okay, we've covered social interactions, but there's another essential aspect of travel we need to address.
What's that?
Transportation.
Ah, yes. Transportation, the lifeline of any trip.
It is. It's how you get from point A to point B, experience the landscapes, and sometimes even have those unexpected adventures along the way.
That's right.
And this section has everything you need to know, from asking for directions to mastering different modes of transport.
For sure. At that beginner level, it's all about those essential interactions.
Yeah.
Asking about bus or train schedules, purchasing tickets, even requesting assistance with your luggage.
Yeah.
These phrases are your foundation for navigating public transport.
It's amazing how much freedom and flexibility you gain when you know how to confidently use public transportation.
Absolutely.
What are your thoughts on the intermediate phrases in this section?
Well, they're all about being resourceful and adaptable.
Okay.
Asking about alternative routes, clarifying destinations, even reporting delays.
Yeah.
It's about being prepared for those unexpected twists and turns that travel often throws our way.
It's about embracing the unknown and turning those potential challenges into opportunities for adventure.
Yeah, those intermediate phrases are so helpful because even, seasoned travelers,
Yeah,
you can find yourself in those unfamiliar situations.
for sure.
I've definitely had to, double check a route or ask for clarification, you know?
Absolutely. It's all about being comfortable asking for help when you need it.
Yeah.
Now, we've covered a lot of ground today. Airports, restaurants, shopping, transportation.
Mm-hmm.
But there's one more crucial aspect of travel we need to discuss.
What's that?
Accommodation.
Accommodation. True. That's your home base, right?
It is.
Your sanctuary while you're exploring a new place.
It is. And having the right vocabulary can really make a difference in how comfortable and enjoyable that stay is.
For sure.
This section breaks it down, starts with those basics at the beginner level.
Okay.
Confirming your reservation, requesting your room key, inquiring about those essential amenities.
Yeah,
These phrases really set you up for a smooth check-in experience.
they do. And, those first impressions at a hotel can really shape your whole perception of your stay.
Oh, they can?
Being able to communicate your needs clearly and politely from the get-go, that can make all the difference.
I completely agree. Now, these intermediate phrases are all about taking things a step further, ensuring your comfort throughout your stay, requesting extra towels, reporting any maintenance issues, even asking for a wake-up call.
Yeah, those are the things that can turn a good stay into a great one.
They are. It's about being proactive and addressing any little hiccups that come up.
Right. And remember, most hotels really want to make sure their guests are happy.
Oh, yeah.
So don't hesitate to speak up if something's not right.
Exactly. Speaking of speaking up, these advanced phrases are all about maximizing that accommodation experience.
Okay, what have we got?
Requesting room upgrades, inquiring about concierge services, even providing feedback on your stay.
You're a hotel expert.
I'm trying. And it's about more than just getting the best room or the most luxurious amenities, right?
Right.
It's about being an engaged and informed guest.
Yeah.
Providing that feedback, both positive and constructive, shows that you value the effort that goes into creating that welcoming, hospitable environment.
I like that.
Let's imagine, okay, you've just arrived at your hotel, you want to get settled in, you're curious about the amenities. You say, "Good evening, I have a reservation under your name, and could you tell me a bit about the hotel's amenities? I'm particularly interested in the fitness center and the spa."
Welcome. We have a state-of-the-art fitness center, open 24 hours a day, and our spa offers a variety of treatments and services. We can certainly arrange a tour for you if you'd like.
Look at you, making yourself right at home. Now, we've talked about, positive side of accommodation. Let's be real, sometimes things don't go perfectly smoothly.
True.
So let's talk about how to handle those tricky situations when they arise.
Okay, this is where clear and assertive communication is key.
Yeah. At the beginner level, it's about mastering those essential phrases for reporting a problem, requesting assistance, expressing dissatisfaction.
Right.
It's about making your concerns known in a clear and respectful way.
Yeah. And remember, even if you don't know all the technical terms to describe a problem,
Right.
just being able to explain the situation in simple language can get you a long way.
It can. The intermediate phrases take things a step further, allowing you to describe the problem in more detail, suggest possible solutions, follow up on your request.
Yeah, it's about advocating for yourself.
Yeah.
Making sure your needs are met.
What are your thoughts on the advanced phrases in this section?
Well, these phrases are for those situations where, a more assertive approach might be necessary.
Okay.
Escalating a complaint, requesting to speak to a manager, even understanding your rights as a guest.
Yeah.
These could be really empowering.
It's about knowing your options, being prepared to stand your ground if you need to.
Right.
But remember, even in those challenging situations, maintaining a polite and respectful tone can go such a long way in achieving a positive outcome.
Absolutely.
All right, let's imagine a scenario. You encounter a problem in your room.
Okay.
You go to the front desk, you say, "Excuse me, I'm afraid there's a problem with my room. The air conditioning isn't working and it's quite uncomfortable."
I apologize for the inconvenience. We'll send someone up right away to take a look. In the meantime, would you like a fan to help cool the room down?
Perfect. You handled that situation with grace and efficiency.
Thank you.
Now, we've covered so much in this deep dive. Airports, hotels, dining, social interactions.
Leading the journey.
But there's one more essential ingredient to successful travel that I want to touch on.
What's that?
Cultural awareness.
Cultural awareness. So important.
It is. It's about recognizing and appreciating the diversity of customs, traditions, social norms around the world.
Absolutely.
Approaching every interaction with respect and an open mind.
Yeah.
This section really emphasizes, being mindful, adapting our behavior to the local customs.
Right.
Even at that beginner level, those basic gestures of politeness and respect, like saying please and thank you, can make such a big difference in how you're perceived.
It's true. It's those little acts of courtesy that show you're making an effort to understand and respect the local culture.
The intermediate phrases delve a little bit deeper navigating social situations, understanding dining etiquette, even being mindful of religious practices.
Right.
It's about being observant, adapting our behavior to those subtle cues.
I agree.
What are your thoughts on the advanced phrases for cultural awareness?
Well, these really highlight the transformative power of, cultural immersion.
Yeah.
Understanding nonverbal communication, appreciating cultural values, even engaging in those meaningful conversations about local traditions.
Yeah.
It's about going beyond the surface and connecting with the heart of a culture.
It's about moving from being a passive observer to an active participant in that cultural landscape.
Like that.
Let's imagine a scenario. You're visiting a temple. You're unsure about the etiquette.
Okay.
You ask, "Excuse me, is it appropriate for me to take photos inside the temple?"
Photography is not permitted inside the temple as a sign of respect for the sacred space.
Yeah.
However, you are welcome to take photos of the exterior architecture.
See, a simple question can help you avoid an unintentional cultural faux pas,
It can?
and it shows a genuine desire to be respectful.
Yeah.
Well, we've covered a lot in this deep dive into English travel vocabulary.
We have.
From navigating those airports and hotels to handling emergencies, immersing ourselves in new cultures, we've equipped you with the phrases, the strategies to confidently handle a whole range of situations.
I hope so.
So as you embark on your next adventure, remember to embrace that power of communication, be respectful of those different cultures, and most importantly,
Yeah.
have fun.
Have fun. Safe travels.
Safe travels, everyone, and we'd love to hear from you.
Oh, yeah.
What aspect of travel are you most looking forward to using your newfound English skills for?
Let us know.
Let us know.
Okay. So going from intermediate to advanced English,
Ooh, yeah,
it's a big jump.
it is.
It is a big jump, but it's totally doable.
Absolutely.
And in this deep dive, we are here to help you make that jump.
That's right.
We're going to be your guides, and we're going to be sharing some of the best shortcuts and secrets.
Yeah, all those little kind of cheat codes, those hacks
Cheat codes, yeah,
to unlock
to unlock your English
their
potential.
full potential. Exactly.
Because we've got a treasure trove of tips and tricks
We do.
to help you with all 4 skill areas.
Yeah.
Reading, writing, listening, and speaking.
It's all covered.
All covered. And the best part is you can start using these right away.
Immediately.
This isn't just theory.
Yeah, this is practical.
This is practical stuff.
Stuff you can use day to day.
No need to dust off the grammar textbooks.
Nope.
None of that. We're diving right into the real world.
The real deal. Real world English.
The real deal.
How to speak and write and listen and read like a native speaker.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's kick things off with reading.
Okay.
So, you've been crushing those Agatha Christie novels.
That's great.
You're doing really well with those, but
It's time to level up.
it's time to level up.
We're going to graduate to the
Big leagues.
Economist.
The Economist, exactly.
BBC News articles, maybe even some academic journals.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, there.
Putting, your skills to the test.
Yeah.
Getting you ready for that university application or that job interview.
Okay, so I remember when I first started reading, complex texts, it felt like I was encountering a new language.
Oh, I know that feeling.
It's like every other word I didn't understand.
Right.
And I want to grab the dictionary
Yes.
and look up everything.
It's so tempting.
It's so tempting, but is that the most effective way to learn?
Well, it can be a bit of a trap
Okay.
because,
Yeah.
constantly stopping to look up every word,
Yeah.
it really kind of breaks your flow.
Yeah.
It can make reading feel like a chore.
It can, yeah. Instead, I really want you to kind of harness the power of context clues.
Okay.
Think of yourself as a detective,
Ooh.
piecing together a mystery.
Yep.
You don't always need every single detail to understand the big picture.
Right.
So let's say you come across a sentence. Like the scientist's groundbreaking research earned her accolades from the international community.
Okay.
Now, you might not know what accolades means right away, but from the context, can you kind of guess?
Yeah. It sounds like she's earned some kind of recognition or praise.
Exactly.
Yeah. She's getting awards or something.
Yeah, maybe awards, praise, recognition,
Something like that.
something positive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, so you've used the clues around the word
The context clue.
to figure out the meaning.
Ooh. I like that detective work. It's fun.
It is, isn't it?
It is.
It's like a puzzle.
And it's a little bit less intimidating
Oh, for sure.
than having to look up every single word.
Yeah, and another strategy you can use to get better at this is to actually look for synonyms or antonyms
Okay.
in the sentence or the surrounding sentences.
Go ahead.
Because often they can kind of give you these hints
Oh, okay.
about the meaning of that unknown word.
So it's almost like a built-in kind of decoder ring
Exactly.
for
Yeah.
you to figure out the
I
vocabulary.
like that. Yeah.
I like that.
The decoder ring. That's great.
So what about exploring different genres?
Oh, yeah. That's a great point.
Does that help as well?
It does.
Okay.
Absolutely. Because venturing into different writing styles,
Okay.
like poetry or technical writing,
Yeah.
or even legal documents,
Oh, yeah.
it can expose you to a wider range of vocabulary and different sentence structures.
Right. So it's like adding different spices to your
Yeah.
language palette.
I love that.
Okay, so we've tackled reading.
We have.
But what about writing?
All right, writing.
How do we go from writing, grammatically correct sentences
Yeah.
to crafting really sophisticated
Sophisticated.
and stylish prose?
Oh, that's the goal.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's about moving beyond
Yeah.
simply conveying information.
Yay.
It's about expressing yourself
Yeah, that's a really good point.
with nuance
With nuance.
and impact, yes.
So instead of saying, I like traveling,
Right.
you could say,
Yeah.
I'm captivated by the allure of exploring diverse cultures and breathtaking landscapes.
Wow, yeah,
Same thought,
much more evocative.
but way more impactful.
Right.
It's like you're painting a picture
Exactly.
with your words.
Instead of just stating a fact,
Yeah.
you're actually bringing the reader with you on that journey.
But how do you learn to do that?
That's a great question.
I mean, it feels a bit daunting.
It can be.
Yeah.
It can be, but there are, certain things you can focus on.
Okay.
One is to actually really think about your sentence structure
Right.
instead of relying on those simple subject, verb, object sentences.
Yeah.
Experiment
Okay.
with things like compound and complex sentences.
Yeah.
So instead of saying, I went to the store, I could say, although it was raining heavily, I ventured out to the store because I desperately needed coffee.
Oh, yeah.
Is that kind of what you mean?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're adding detail.
You're adding detail and you're creating a more kind of interesting narrative
Right.
just by changing that sentence structure.
Yeah, so it's not just about adding like fancy vocabulary.
No.
It's about structure.
It's
how
about-
you're
it's all-
crafting it.
The way you put those words together,
Yeah, okay.
the way you phrase things
Real.
to create a certain effect.
So it's about being intentional
Yes.
with your choices.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. So we've talked about reading. We've talked about writing.
Yes.
Now let's talk about listening.
Ooh.
Listing, which can be one of the most challenging
It can be.
aspects of language learning.
Especially at the advanced level.
When you encounter
Yeah.
different accents,
Accents,
rapid speech,
the speed,
and
idioms. Yes.
that make no sense.
That make absolutely no sense when you first hear them.
Yeah,
Right.
like a linguistic jungle out there.
It is.
Do you have any tips for navigating that?
Well, I think one of the best things you can do
Okay.
is to really immerse yourself
Okay.
in authentic English content.
Okay, so like not just language learning podcasts,
Not just those,
but like branching out.
branching out, listening to podcasts designed for native speakers, even if they're not about topics that you're, super familiar with.
Right. So it's okay if I don't understand every single word.
Exactly.
It's more about
Getting that exposure
getting that exposure.
to the natural flow and the speed
Yeah.
of real English.
Okay, so would you recommend things like, if I'm going to listen to podcasts?
Yes.
What kind of podcasts?
Well, there are so many,
Okay.
but I think a few good ones to start with
Okay.
are, the English We Speak, which is a great one for learning idioms and expressions.
Yeah.
And then TED Talks Daily,
Okay.
which is just a fantastic way to kind of get exposed to different accents, different topics, different styles of speaking.
Okay.
And then, something like Serial,
Yeah.
which is, a really captivating storytelling podcast.
So a variety of different things.
Yeah. And honestly, the best resources are
Right.
the ones that you find
Okay.
genuinely interesting and engaging,
Right, because then
because that's what's going to keep you coming back for more.
that's going to keep you coming back.
Yeah, exactly.
So I've heard about a technique called shadowing.
Oh, yes.
Is it supposed to be helpful for listening?
It's a fantastic technique.
Okay, so can you explain what that is?
So basically, shadowing is you're listening to a native speaker,
Okay.
and then you're trying to repeat
Okay.
what they're saying as closely as possible.
So mimicking their
Mimicking.
pronunciation,
Yeah.
intonation, even their rhythm. So it's kind of like vocal exercises.
Exactly.
They're for English.
Yeah, it's like going to the gym
Okay.
for your mouth
Yeah.
and for your ears.
I've never tried that before,
You should give it a try.
but it sounds really effective
It is.
to pronunciation.
Yeah, and you can do it anytime, anywhere.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can do it with podcasts. You can do it with audiobooks.
Yes.
You can even do it with YouTube videos.
Right. So anything you're listening to.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. So we've covered reading.
We have.
We've covered writing.
Listening.
Listening, yes.
Now let's talk about
The big one.
the big one.
The one that everybody gets a little bit nervous about.
Yeah.
Speaking.
Speaking.
Yes.
I think a lot of people,
Yeah.
myself included, we get nervous
It's understandable.
about speaking in a new language,
It is.
especially at an advanced level.
Especially when you're trying to reach that fluency,
Yeah.
where you can express yourself
Yeah.
with nuance.
With nuance. Yeah. And, and effortlessly.
Effortlessly. It
Yeah.
can be nerve-wracking.
It can be, but, the key
Yeah.
is just practice and exposure.
Practice and exposure.
Yeah. The more you practice speaking,
Yeah.
the more confident and comfortable you'll become.
Well, that's easy to say.
I know.
But sometimes it's hard to put into practice.
It is.
Especially if you don't have a lot of opportunities
Yeah.
to interact with native speakers.
Yeah.
How do you go about doing that?
Well, there's still lots of ways to practice.
Okay.
Even if you don't have regular access
Yeah.
to native speakers,
Right.
you can join online language exchange communities.
Oh,
You can find conversation partners
Right.
through apps or websites,
Yeah.
or, even record yourself speaking
okay.
and then listen back to it
So you can hear
so you can hear.
how you sound.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so what about those moments where
Yeah.
you're having a conversation and you want to use like a sophisticated word
Yes.
or a phrase,
Yes.
but you're not sure if it sounds natural
Oh, I know that feeling.
or forced?
It's all about finding that balance.
Okay.
You don't want to sound like you're trying too hard
Yeah.
or, using a thesaurus
Yeah.
to impress people.
Yeah.
It's about using advanced vocabulary in
Yeah.
a way that feels natural and authentic to you.
So it's not about showing off
No.
your vocabulary. It's about using the right words.
It's about using the right words for the right situation
Right.
and in a way that feels,
To express yourself clearly.
yes, to express yourself clearly and effectively.
Okay.
So I always think about it like, adding spices to your cooking.
Oh, okay.
You don't want to overwhelm the dish with
Yeah.
too many flavors. But, a few well-placed spices
Yeah.
can really enhance the taste
Say,
and make it more interesting.
I like that analogy because it's not about cramming
Right.
all these big words,
Exactly.
but it's about, thinking thoughtfully
It's about being strategic.
about how you use advanced vocabulary.
Exactly.
And the more you expose yourself
Yes.
to advanced English,
Yes.
the more it will just,
It would flow naturally.
it will start to flow naturally, yeah.
It's like building up that foundation.
A foundation, exactly.
And allowing your
The
spoken English to blossom.
blossom, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
From that.
And, remember, everyone makes mistakes.
Oh, yeah.
Even native speakers. So don't be afraid to just experiment,
Yeah.
try out new words, try out new expressions.
Right.
The most important thing is to communicate
Right.
effectively and have fun while you're doing it.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's like giving yourself permission
Yes.
to play
To play.
with
Yeah.
the language.
Exactly.
I like that.
And to not be afraid
Yeah.
to make mistakes.
Yeah. I think we've
I
covered
think so much.
so much ground already.
I know.
And I'm already feeling more
Having to
confident
think.
about my own English skills.
Oh, that's fantastic to hear.
Just from,
Yeah.
hearing your advice.
Well, remember, it's a journey.
It is.
And it's all about taking those small steps.
Yeah.
Celebrating the progress.
Right.
And never giving up.
Never give up.
No.
All right. So we're going to take a quick break
Okay.
and come back to tackle even more
More tips, more strategies.
tips and strategies
Yes.
in part 2
In part 2.
of our deep dive
I'm excited.
into advanced English.
Me too.
See you soon.
See you soon.
Okay. So we're back.
We are back.
And we're ready to dive even deeper
Deeper.
into this world of advanced English.
That's right.
And we've covered so much already.
I know we've covered so much.
From decoding tricky vocabulary
Yeah.
to expressing ourselves with more nuance and style.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not done yet.
No, not at all.
We still got plenty of tips
Oh, we've got a lot more.
and strategies to share,
Absolutely.
especially when it comes to
Yeah.
integrating
Yes.
all 4 skill areas:
That's right.
reading, writing, listening, and speaking
Mm-hmm.
to create a truly holistic approach
Holistic. Yeah.
to language learning.
That's the key.
So it's not about mastering each skill in isolation.
Right.
It's about weaving them together
Yeah, weaving them together.
to create this tapestry
I love that analogy.
of fluency.
It's like a beautiful tapestry.
But how do you actually do that in practice?
Okay, so let's say you've just read a fascinating article
Okay.
about the future of artificial intelligence.
Okay.
Instead of just passively consuming that information,
Right.
why not challenge yourself
Okay.
to summarize the key points in writing?
So you're taking what you've read
Take what you've read,
and then processing it
put it into your own words
in a new way.
in a new way.
So you're reinforcing your comprehension, but you're also developing your writing skills.
You're synthesizing the information
Yeah.
and you're expressing it in a new way.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
And what about listening?
Okay, listen.
How can we connect that skill
Right.
to the other ones?
Okay, well, imagine you're listening to a podcast
Okay.
about a controversial topic,
Right.
like climate change.
Like,
Afterwards, you could have a discussion with a friend
oh,
or a family member
Okay.
about the main points
Okay.
that were raised in that podcast.
so you're taking those ideas
You're taking those
that
ideas
heard,
out of your head and then actually
putting them into practice.
talking about them
Okay.
with another person.
Exactly.
Oh, I like that.
So you're practicing your listening comprehension,
Yeah.
but you're also formulating
Right.
your own opinions.
And then speaking them.
Yeah,
Wow, that's a good way to practice.
it is.
You're listening and you're speaking. Yeah, and it helps you remember the information better too.
Oh, okay.
When you engage with it on multiple levels,
Okay.
it kind of gets embedded.
Embedded.
Yeah.
So it's not just about each skill individually.
Right.
It's finding these ways to connect them,
To connect them, yeah.
to create like a synergistic
Yes.
learning experience.
Absolutely.
Okay, this is inspiring.
Good.
It feels like, we're giving people
Yeah.
a blueprint for like
Yeah.
becoming masters of English.
That's the goal.
But let's be honest, sometimes even with like the best of intentions,
Yeah.
it can be tough to stay motivated
It can.
and consistent with language learning.
Yeah.
So, any tips?
Yeah, I think setting specific achievable goals
Okay.
is really important.
So instead of just aiming to improve your English,
Right, because that's very broad,
yeah, it's broad.
very vague.
Right.
Set a concrete target.
Okay.
So you could say, okay, this week I'm going to learn 10 new vocabulary words.
Okay, so specific,
Specific.
measurable.
Measurable, yeah.
I like that.
Or this month I'm going to write one short essay.
Okay.
Or every day I'm going to listen to
Great.
30 minutes of English podcasts.
So it's like it's broken down
Yeah, you break it
into these bite-sized pieces
bite-sized pieces.
that you can actually manage,
Exactly.
that feel achievable.
Yeah.
So you're not overwhelmed
You don't feel overwhelmed.
by this huge goal.
Yeah, because that can be really daunting.
Yeah.
And it can actually put people off.
Yeah.
So yeah, break it down into smaller chunks.
Make it manageable.
And then you can see your progress.
Right. So you're actually seeing the result and
Exactly.
you feel good about it.
Yeah, and that keeps you motivated.
It's encouraging to keep going.
Exactly.
And what about tracking your progress?
Oh, tracking is a fantastic idea.
Okay.
So you can use a simple notebook or a spreadsheet or even language learning apps
Right.
to keep track of your goals,
Okay.
your milestones, your achievements.
I like the idea of keeping like a
Yeah.
language learning journal.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Like write down interesting words you find, new phrases.
And, you can even reflect
Oh, yeah.
on how your journey is going.
Yeah.
Celebrate your successes.
Celebrate the little wins.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And remember, even small steps are still progress.
It all adds up.
It all adds up in the
It's
end.
not about being perfect.
No, not at all. It's about
It's about consistency.
consistency.
It's about just chipping away at it.
chipping away at it,
Little by little.
little by little,
Every day.
every day.
Even if it's just for 15 minutes.
So you don't need
No, you don't
hours and hours.
You don't need to block out hours and hours.
Okay.
Just 15 minutes a day
15 minutes a day.
and make a big difference. A big difference. Okay.
It's like exercising a muscle.
Okay.
Regular, consistent workouts
Yeah.
will get you better results
That's it.
than one big, intense session.
Right. So it's like a marathon.
Exactly. It's a marathon.
Not a sprint.
It's not a sprint. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
So, yeah, it's about building those habits,
Yeah.
making it sustainable.
Yeah.
And remember,
Yeah.
you've got so many tools and resources
Okay.
available to help you.
Okay.
Language learning apps, online dictionaries,
Yeah.
grammar checkers.
Right. There's a lot out there.
There is.
We don't have to do it alone.
No. And the best part is,
Yeah.
you've got this amazing community
Community. Yeah.
of language learners out there.
Yeah. So many people are learning English.
It's one of the most, spoken languages
Yeah.
in the world.
So we're not alone.
No.
And it makes it more fun
More fun, more enjoyable.
when you're doing it with others.
Absolutely. And more rewarding.
This is so positive.
Yeah.
It's like you're giving us a roadmap
Yeah.
for success.
A roadmap for success.
Not just with English,
No.
but like in life.
In life, exactly.
About that consistency.
Consistency.
It's about, celebrating the small wins.
Yeah, celebrating.
Remembering that it's a journey.
It's all about the journey.
Yeah.
And, the more you embrace that,
Yeah.
the more rewarding it will become.
And English is just this
It's a gateway
gateway to so many other things.
to so many other things.
Yeah, it's
How
about
do you
expanding your horizons,
expanding your horizons.
connecting with new cultures and new people,
Yeah, absolutely.
and unlocking.
Unlocking your potential
Yeah.
as a global citizen.
It makes me realize it's not just like
It's not just a set of skills.
a set of skills. Yeah.
It's so much more than that.
It's a journey
It's a journey, yeah,
of self-discovery.
of self-discovery.
Yeah, I like that.
It's about growth.
Okay, so we've covered so much
We have.
in just these 2 parts,
I know, it's amazing.
but we have one more part to go,
One more to go.
so stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
We've got some exciting final thoughts
Final thoughts, yes.
and a thought-provoking question
The thought-provoking question
to leave you with.
to leave you with.
So stick around
Stick around
for the grand finale.
for the grand finale.
All right, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into advanced English fluency. And I have to say,
Yeah.
I'm feeling super energized after all the amazing tips and insights we've covered.
I know, me too.
But before we wrap things up,
Yeah.
I'm curious.
Okay.
What are some of the biggest kind of breakthroughs or aha moments you've had in your own language learning journey?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I think for me, one of the biggest kind of light bulb moments was realizing that language learning, it's not just about memorizing rules and vocabulary.
Oh, yeah.
It's about developing this deeper understanding of how language works
Yeah.
as a system of communication.
So it's like
Cracking a code.
cracking a code, exactly.
Yeah, like understanding the underlying principles.
The structure, the patterns.
Yeah, and then it makes it easier to
You can kind of
navigate those nuances.
all the little
Yeah.
twists and turns of English.
Exactly. You start to see the connections
Yeah.
between different parts of the language.
It makes it less intimidating.
It does. It really does.
Yeah.
And, another kind of breakthrough for me was actually
Yeah.
embracing the idea of making mistakes
Okay.
as part of the process.
Oh, yeah.
It's so easy to get caught up
Right.
in that fear of making a mistake.
Especially when you're like
When you're speaking.
speaking, you're like,
Yeah.
I don't want to mess this up.
It's just special. Yeah.
Oh, I don't want to mess this up.
But the truth is,
Yeah.
mistakes are inevitable.
Yeah. You get to make a,
You are.
yeah.
And you know what?
Yeah.
They're actually valuable learning opportunities. Oh, that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
Instead of
seeing them as failures.
beating yourself up.
Exactly.
It's more about
It's like, oh, this is a chance for me to learn and grow.
Yeah, I think a lot of language learners, myself included,
Yeah.
we tend to be perfectionists.
Yeah. We want to get it right.
We want to get it right every time.
Every single time.
Yeah.
But you know what?
What?
It's okay to let go
Okay.
of that need for perfection.
All right, give myself permission
Give yourself permission,
to not be perfect.
to make mistakes.
Yeah.
Because that's how you learn.
Yeah, okay, so embrace the messiness
Embrace the messiness, yeah.
of the learning process.
Because that's where the magic happens.
Okay, I like that. And speaking of,
Yeah.
not being afraid to experiment,
Yeah.
I think it's so important to find ways to make
To make it fun.
language learning fun and engaging.
Fun and engaging, yeah.
So do you have any tips for I think one of my favorite ways is to connect it to your other interests and passions.
Oh,
So for
Definitely.
example, if you're a movie buff,
yeah.
why not watch
Okay.
English language films
Yeah.
with subtitles?
Okay.
Or if you love music,
Okay.
try listening to English language songs
Yeah.
and read the lyrics.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's about kind of finding those things that you already enjoy.
Yeah. So you're not
Yeah, and then you're kind of
forcing it,
you're sneaking in the language learning
sneaking it in. Yeah.
without it feeling like a chore.
It's more natural.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
more organic.
I like that.
And I think it's also important to,
Yeah.
celebrate your progress.
Celebrate those little wins.
Celebrate those little wins,
Yeah.
no matter how small.
Even if it's just like, I learned a
Yes.
new word today.
Yeah, or I understood a whole sentence in a podcast.
And I didn't have to look it up.
yeah, exactly.
And that's a win.
It's a win.
Yeah. And I think it's important to remember that
Yeah.
language learning,
It's a journey.
it's a journey,
It is
not a destination.
a destination, yeah.
You know, there's always going to be
Right.
more to learn, more to explore.
There's always another level.
There is.
There's reach.
And, you know, the beauty of it is
Yeah.
the journey itself
Yeah.
is so rich
Yeah.
and so filled with discoveries.
Discoveries. Yeah.
So embrace those challenges.
Okay.
Savor the victories
I like that.
and never stop exploring.
Keep going.
Keep going, yeah.
All right. So it feels like we've come full circle
We have
in this deep dive.
full circle from
From the practical.
the practical to the mindset.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what it's all about.
And I hope our listener is feeling
Yeah.
empowered and inspired
Inspired and ready
to continue their journey
to keep going.
with English.
But before we say goodbye,
Yes.
I want to leave you with a thought-provoking question.
Oh, I like these.
Okay.
Okay.
So imagine you've reached that
Certainly true.
advanced level of English fluency.
They're there.
What doors do you see opening?
What opportunities?
Yeah. What opportunities and possibilities
That's a good one.
do you envision for yourself?
Yeah, think about that.
We would love to hear
We would.
your aspirations
Yeah.
and your
And
dreams.
as you continue
Yeah.
on your journey, remember,
Yeah,
we are here to cheer you on
we are.
every step of the way.
So keep practicing, keep exploring,
Yes.
keep believing in your potential.
You've got this.
Until next time,
Until next time.
happy learning.
Happy learning. All right, so are you ready to dive into this list of 99 words? It's supposed to be like the most useful words for daily conversation.
Yeah, it's kind of a fascinating idea.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it's like, this linguistic survival kit, like if you only had 99 words to work with,
Right.
could you actually communicate?
It's like the bare minimum of language.
It is. And what's really interesting to me is like, thinking about this list as a way to understand how humans make meaning,
Oh, yeah.
with just, the fewest possible pieces.
Like a linguistic Lego set.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
like reverse engineering language,
It is.
We're starting with like this simplified model
Right.
and using it to understand this complex system.
Exactly.
So cool. Before we break down all the categories and like go word by word,
Sure.
let's just take a second to appreciate like how much you can actually say with only 99 words.
Yeah, that is amazing.
I mean, think about it. You can talk about what you did today, how you're feeling, even like make plans for the future, all with just this tiny little vocabulary.
It's pretty incredible when you think about it.
It's mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start unpacking these categories.
Okay.
The first one is greetings.
Right.
And I immediately was like, why include both hello and hi?
Yeah. Why both?
It seems like such a subtle distinction for such a small vocabulary.
Right.
What do you think?
Well, I think that subtle difference actually speaks volumes about like formality in language.
Oh, interesting.
Hello is generally considered more formal. Hi is a more casual. It's a really simple choice, but it can kind of signal a lot about the relationship between speakers.
Yeah, it's like choosing your weapon linguistically speaking.
That's a good way to put it.
You don't want to use the wrong level of formality in the wrong situation.
Exactly.
So even in the stripped down vocabulary, it seems like social nuance is still really important.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, let's move on to actions.
Okay.
And right away, I'm intrigued by make and do.
Oh, yeah.
They seem super basic, but like, I feel like there's so much hidden complexity there.
Well, they're like the Swiss Army knives of language.
Yeah.
And I think it's a clue to how language evolves.
Right.
You start with these really broad verbs like make and do,
Uh-huh.
but then as societies get more complex, you need more precise words.
Right.
But we still hang on to those multi-purpose verbs because they're just so useful.
It's like they're carrying the weight of all those more specific verbs within them.
Exactly.
Instead of saying construct or manufacture, we can just say make.
Right.
Okay, moving on to descriptions.
Right?
This is where I got really interested.
Okay.
Because there are a lot of words for emotions on this list. Happy, sad, tired, hungry, thirsty.
Mm-hmm.
Why prioritize feelings so much?
Well, think about it. Being able to communicate basic needs like hunger and thirst. Those are essential for survival.
Yeah.
And emotions like happiness or sadness, they're really powerful signals.
Yeah.
They can influence how other people interact with you.
Right.
So in a way, they're just as important as actions or objects when you're trying to get your point across.
It's not just about conveying information.
Right.
It's about expressing your internal state,
Exactly.
which can be super crucial for navigating social situations.
Definitely.
All right, next up we have time and frequency.
Hey.
And what I find fascinating about this category
Yeah.
is how it highlights like the human struggle to understand something that is actually really abstract.
Oh.
Time.
It's true. Time is a weird one.
Yeah,
It's like these basic time concepts aren't as straightforward as they seem.
I know.
You know, we humans, we perceive and organize time in a way that's like unique in the animal kingdom.
Right.
We use language to create a framework for understanding something that's inherently intangible.
And here, with just a handful of words, always, sometimes, never, we have a whole system for expressing like complex ideas about, you know, when things happen, how often they happen.
Right.
It's like building a whole universe of time with just a few linguistic Legos.
Yes, that analogy.
Right.
It really is. It's a testament to the power of language to make sense of the world around us.
Totally. And it highlights how even seemingly simple words can carry a lot of weight.
Absolutely.
Speaking of which, let's move on to the category of places.
Okay.
What immediately jumped out at me here is the word workplace.
Okay.
But there aren't any specific jobs listed.
Right.
And it made me think, is this a reflection of how work is viewed in modern society?
That's a really interesting observation. I mean,
Okay.
workplace is a much more generalized space than, say, farm or factory.
Yeah.
This could indicate like a shift towards a world where work happens in a variety of settings.
Okay.
And of course, language adapts to reflect these societal changes.
So this seemingly simple word choice might actually be a clue about the intended audience for this list.
Interesting.
Someone navigating a more, you know, modern, fluid work environment.
Yeah.
But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, I'm really curious to dig into what's missing from this list, because it's often the omissions that are the most revealing, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. What's left AUT of a language can tell us just as much as what's included. Sometimes that's where the real story is.
It's like looking at the negative space in a painting, right?
Yeah, sometimes that's where the real story is.
Okay, so the first thing that jumps out at me is the lack of slang or informal language.
Okay.
This list is very proper and polite. Why do you think they made that choice?
That's a good question.
It seems like it would make it harder to like really connect with native speakers, you know?
Well, I think slang is so hyper-specific to a time and place. This list seems to be aiming for like a timeless, almost international version of English.
Okay.
Something that would be understood across cultures.
Right.
And wouldn't sound dated in a few years.
So it's like they're going for the most universally applicable version of English.
Right.
Even if it means sacrificing some of the, you know, richness and nuance of everyday speech.
Exactly.
It's interesting to think about the trade-offs, right? You gain clarity and broad understanding, but you lose some of the color and personality that slang can bring.
For sure. And it raises an interesting question about the purpose of language itself.
Oh, yeah.
Is it primarily about conveying information clearly and efficiently?
Right.
Or is it also about expressing identity,
Yeah.
building relationships,
Right.
playing with the creative possibilities of words?
All right, so we've talked about the missing slang,
Right.
but there's another omission that really struck me. The lack of abstract concepts.
Okay.
We've got love and hate, which seem pretty fundamental, but that's about it.
It's true.
Why do you think that is?
It seems like this list prioritizes concrete needs
Okay.
and immediate experiences
Uh-huh.
over more complex or nuanced ideas.
I see.
I mean, if you're focused on basic survival and communication,
Right.
you probably don't need to be like debating the meaning of life.
Yeah.
Right?
I guess when you're trying to build a language from scratch, you have to start with the essentials.
The bare minimum.
The things you need to physically survive and navigate the world around you.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's move on to some of the categories that are included.
Right.
And questions feels like the most essential of all, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, questions are how we learn, how we explore, how we connect with others on a deeper level.
Couldn't agree more.
They're fundamental to the human experience.
For sure.
And look at the words they've chosen. What, where, when, why, how.
The classic 5 W's.
It's like they're targeting the most fundamental aspects of our experience, like the nature of things, their location, their timing, their causes, and their methods.
Yeah, it's like the building blocks of curiosity.
Right.
You know, those 5 W's, those are practically universal across languages.
Wow.
That tells us something about the fundamental ways that humans seek to understand the world.
It's like we're hardwired for curiosity. We need to know the who, what, where, when, and why of everything.
We do.
Okay, let's move on to connectors. These are the words that link ideas together, right?
Right, like the glue that holds language together.
And the ones they've chosen, and but or because. So they're like the basic building blocks of logic and reasoning.
Absolutely. They allow us to create more complex sentences,
Right?
to show cause and effect, contrast ideas,
Yeah.
offer alternatives.
It's amazing how much nuance you can add with just a handful of words.
It really is.
Okay, so then we come to the miscellaneous category.
Right.
This one feels a bit like a catch-all.
It does. A little bit of everything.
But like they're acknowledging that even in a simplified vocabulary,
Yeah.
we still need ways to talk about the things that matter most to us.
Right.
Our relationships, our values, our place in the world.
Yeah, we've got thing which is about as general as it gets.
Right.
But then you've got life, world, friend, family.
Interesting how they grouped those concepts together.
It is. It suggests an awareness of the interconnectedness of our experiences,
Right.
even in a very basic vocabulary.
And then, of course, there's words like money car house.
Yeah.
I can't help but wonder if that reflects a certain emphasis on material possessions.
Perhaps. Or maybe just the practical realities of daily life in many cultures.
True.
But it also speaks to the need for language to evolve alongside our technological advancements.
Okay.
As we create new things, we need new words to describe them.
So I think we've done a pretty thorough job unpacking this list.
I think so.
We've talked about the choices they made, the words they included, the ones they left out. It's really given us a fascinating glimpse into the essential elements of communication, hasn't it?
I think so. It has been a really enriching exploration.
It has.
And I think what's most striking is how this seemingly simple list of 99 words has sparked so many big questions.
Yeah, it really makes you realize that language is so much more than just like a set of words.
It is.
You know,
it's a living, breathing system that's constantly evolving
It really is.
and reflecting the world around us.
Okay, so we've gone like deep into the nitty-gritty of this list. We've analyzed categories, debated word choices, pondered the missing pieces. But what does it all mean for you, the listener? What can you take away from this deep dive?
I hope it's given you a new appreciation for the power of language.
Right.
Even with just 99 words, you can express a surprising range of thoughts, feelings, experiences.
Yeah.
It's kind of a reminder that sometimes simplicity can be a strength.
And it makes you think, like, what if you were building your own list of essential words? What would it look like?
What words would you choose?
What would those choices say about you?
That's a great exercise for the listeners.
It is.
To think about the words you use most often.
Yeah.
The ones that feel indispensable in your daily life.
Because language is so personal.
It really is.
It's not just about conveying information.
It's about expressing who we are.
Yeah.
How we see the world.
Right.
What matters most to us.
Exactly. By paying closer attention to the language we use the words, we choose the way we string them together. I think we can gain a deeper understanding of ourselves and our place in the world.
Totally.
So there you have it. Our deep dive into the world of essential vocabulary. It's been a blast exploring this list with you.
It has been.
And hopefully we've left you with some new insights about language communication.
And maybe even a little about yourself.
And remember, this is just the beginning. The exploration of language is a lifelong journey.
It is.
So keep asking questions, keep learning,
Keep playing with words.
and most importantly,
Keep talking. All right, so you want to speak English.
Yes.
Right. Like with more confidence, I mean.
Yeah.
Go beyond just hello and goodbye,
Yeah.
Well, today we're diving into this guide. It says, it'll unlock the secrets to sounding like a native speaker. And let me tell you, there's some seriously cool stuff in here.
I do.
Way beyond basic phrases.
Okay, so what's interesting about this guide, it challenges the traditional way of learning languages.
Oh, how so?
Well, it argues that instead of focusing only on grammar rules and vocab lists,
Yeah.
we should be learning how to actually talk,
Communicate.
Yeah, in real life situations.
Right, that makes sense. But how do you actually go about doing that? I mean, it's easy to say talk more, but what should you actually be saying?
Well, the guide says you should start with simple phrases,
Okay.
practical phrases that you'd use, in everyday life. Like, think of it as building a foundation for fluency.
Okay.
And it breaks these situations into, like, categories,
Very
like
simple.
introductions, daily routine.
Ordering food, asking for directions.
Yeah.
And each category gives you a set of phrases and expressions that native speakers use all the time.
So it's like a cheat sheet.
Yeah.
for like navigating real life conversations.
Exactly.
That's awesome. It takes away some of the pressure, of trying to figure out what to say on the spot.
Right.
Yeah.
And what's really cool is the guide encourages you to
Yeah.
use these phrases as a springboard
Oh, cool.
for more extended conversation.
Oh, I like that.
So let's say you're at a coffee shop, right?
Okay.
And you want to start talking to someone.
Okay.
You could start by saying, "Hi, I'm listener's name. I really like the atmosphere here."
That's so easy.
Right.
Yeah, anyone can do that.
And then you could ask a question like, do you come here often? Or what's your favorite drink?
That's such a good example.
Right.
It's simple, but it opens the door for a more like natural conversation.
Exactly.
But what about this whole...
Sounding like a native speaker thing?
Okay.
Is it really possible to, get rid of your accent?
Well, the guide, it addresses that
Okay.
and offers a really fun technique. Imitation.
Really?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
It suggests watching popular TV shows or movies
Okay.
and trying to mimic how they're talking.
Wait, so you're telling me I can improve my English by watching, Friends?
Exactly.
That's my kind of homework.
And it's not just about the words.
Oh, okay.
It's about paying attention to the intonation, rhythm, and stress patterns.
Mm-hmm.
These are super important for sounding natural and fluent.
Okay.
And the guide recommends this technique called shadowing,
Shadowing.
where you listen to a short audio clip
Okay.
and then you repeat it, immediately
Oh, wow.
try to match the speaker's pace and pronunciation.
Oh, so that's shadowing.
Yeah.
That sounds intense, but I can see how it'd be effective.
Right.
Those little nuances of pronunciation.
It is.
So it's like you're training your ears and your mouth to work together.
Exactly.
Okay, I like that.
And the guide says you should start with really short, simple phrases
Okay.
and then gradually work up to longer sentences and dialogues.
Yeah.
Key is to be patient and consistent.
Right.
Don't worry about sounding perfect.
No, of course.
Right.
Okay, this is all starting to make sense.
Yeah.
But I have to ask about
Yeah.
the elephant in the room,
Okay.
vocabulary.
Okay.
I've always struggled with memorizing words,
Right.
long lists of words.
Yeah.
Is there a more strategic way to approach this?
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
The guide stresses that simply memorizing words, out of context, it isn't effective.
Mhm.
It proposes this strategic vocabulary building.
What's that?
Okay. It focuses on learning words and phrases that are relevant to you,
Oh, okay.
your interests, your goals.
Mhm.
So it suggests making your own word lists
Oh,
based on topics you like, like travel or food, movies, music.
right. Okay, that sounds way more engaging than flipping through a dictionary.
Right.
But how do you make sure you actually use these words?
Okay, so the guide recommends this technique.
Yeah.
It's called spaced repetition.
Okay.
And it involves reviewing the words at different intervals to strengthen your memory.
Oh, cool.
There's tons of apps and websites that can help with that.
That's a clever way to keep those words
Yeah.
fresh in your mind.
Right.
So it's not just about learning new words, it's about actively using them.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
the guide emphasizes the importance of using these words in context.
Okay.
So instead of just memorizing definitions,
Mhm.
try to make sentences,
Okay.
or even short stories
Yeah.
that use the words. This will help you actually understand them,
Yeah.
how they're used.
In real life.
Yeah,
That's such a practical tip.
right.
It's one thing to know the definition, but it's another to be able to use it,
Exactly.
in a sentence.
Exactly.
Yeah, confidently.
The guide suggests finding creative ways to use new words in your daily life.
Oh, like what?
Well, you could label things around your house,
Mm-hmm.
write journal entries,
Okay.
challenge yourself to think in English for a few minutes each day.
Thinking in English.
Yeah.
That sounds kind of scary, to be honest.
It might seem challenging,
Yeah.
but the guide breaks it down.
Oh.
It suggests starting with simple thoughts and descriptions,
Like what?
like I'm hungry, or the sky is blue.
Oh.
As you get more comfortable, you can increase the complexity.
I guess it's like building a muscle.
Yeah.
You wouldn't expect to lift a heavy weight on your first day at the gym.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah, it takes time
Yeah.
to build strength.
And consistency.
Yeah, consistency.
And the guide emphasizes that the more you expose yourself to the language,
Yeah.
the easier it'll be to think in English. So surround yourself with English,
Books, Movies, music.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
And your brain will naturally start to make connections.
Oh, I'm starting to get excited about this.
Yeah.
Thinking an English thing.
It's cool.
But what about those moments when you just blank
Huh?
and you can't remember a word or a phrase?
Okay.
We've all been there.
Of course, happens to everyone, even native speakers.
Okay, good.
But the guide offers some strategies for dealing with those tip of the tongue moments.
Okay, what are they?
Well, it emphasizes staying calm and using circumlocution.
Circumlocution. What's that?
That means, describing the word
Okay.
that you're trying to say.
Oh, so instead of freezing up and saying, I don't know the word,
Yeah.
I could try to describe it
Yeah,
using other words.
exactly.
Like, it's the thing you used to.
Yeah,
Okay, that actually makes a lot of sense.
right.
Yeah, it's like playing charades in your
Yeah.
vocabulary.
And the guide says you should practice circumlocution, regularly.
Yeah.
You can play games with friends
Well, that's fun.
where you challenge each other to describe words
Oh, I like that.
without actually saying them.
Okay, we've covered a lot
Yeah.
in this first part of our deep dive, from building a foundation of practical phrases to mastering pronunciation and expanding your vocabulary.
Yeah.
What else is there?
Well, one of the most important aspects of speaking any language is confidence.
Right.
And that's where the guide's emphasis on practice comes in.
Mm-hmm.
It's not enough to just learn the words and phrases.
Right.
You need to actually use them.
Right, and that's where I think a lot of language learners get stuck.
Mm-hmm.
It's one thing to practice at home,
Yeah.
but it's another to actually go out there and talk to people.
Right.
Any tips on overcoming that fear, of making mistakes?
Well, the guide acknowledges that fear, and it gives some advice.
Okay, good.
First, it reminds us that everyone makes mistakes.
Okay.
Even native speakers.
Yeah.
It's a natural part of learning.
But how do you deal with those awkward moments when you say something wrong and people look at you like you've just spoken a foreign language?
The guide says embrace those moments
Okay.
as opportunities to learn.
Okay.
Instead of getting flustered, try to see them as a chance to clarify,
Okay.
and improve your pronunciation.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, maybe even your confidence a little.
And it also recommends finding supportive language partners or groups where you can practice.
Mm-hmm. In a safe environment.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Right.
Surround yourself with people who will support you.
Yes.
Speaking of support, does the guide offer any strategies for actually putting all this speaking practice into action?
It does.
It's easy to talk about it, but how do you actually make it happen?
Well, the guide gives a range of practical tips for incorporating speaking into your routine,
Oh, cool.
whether you have a partner or not. For solo practice,
Yeah.
it suggests things like recording yourself,
Oh.
describing images out loud, telling stories,
Mm-hmm.
and even having imaginary conversations.
Oh, that's interesting.
Right.
Those are great ideas. And for those who do have a language partner,
Mm-hmm.
what kind of activities does the guide recommend?
Well, the guide's packed with suggestions for interactive speaking activities.
Like what?
Like role-playing common scenarios, debating current events, discussing movies or books,
Okay.
and even playing language-based games.
Oh, that's fun.
The key is to find activities that are engaging and relevant to your interests.
This guide is like a gold mine of advice.
Yeah.
We've barely scratched the surface here of all the tips and techniques.
Yeah.
But before we dive into more specific strategies for improving your speaking,
Okay.
let's take a quick break to process all this awesome information.
Right.
We'll be back soon with more insights from this incredible guide.
Sounds good.
Welcome back to our deep dive into speaking English like you mean it. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling super inspired to put all these techniques into practice.
Yeah, it's amazing.
There's so much in here.
It really is.
Before the break, we were talking about, actually using your English and overcoming that fear of making mistakes.
Right.
But what about the technical stuff?
Like what?
Like pronunciation. I know a lot of people, they struggle with specific sounds or accents.
Yeah, that's a good point. Pronunciation is often overlooked.
Yeah.
But it's super important for being understood and sounding more natural.
Yeah.
The guide actually goes into this.
Okay, so what are some things learners should focus on?
Okay, so the guide, it breaks pronunciation into 3 core elements:
What are they?
individual sounds, word stress, and connected speech.
Okay.
It says that mastering individual sounds is like the foundation.
Okay.
For example, a lot of learners have trouble with the sound,
Oh, yeah, that one.
which doesn't exist in many languages.
No, it's hard.
Right.
It's like my tongue is doing gymnastics.
I know, right?
Yeah.
So what's the secret to getting it right? Well, the
Oh.
guide says to pay attention to your tongue and teeth
Okay.
and practice those sounds in isolation until they become more natural.
Oh, okay.
There's a ton of resources online
Really?
that can show you exactly how to do it.
That's so helpful. I wish I had those when I was learning.
Right.
Okay, so what about word stress?
Word stress.
Why is that so important?
Word stress can completely change the meaning of a word.
Oh, really?
Like, for example, the word present
Okay.
can be a noun or a verb,
Yeah.
right? And the stress changes depending on which one it is.
Oh, I see.
If you stress the first syllable, it means a gift.
Okay.
But if you stress the second syllable, it means to give something.
Wow, that's a big difference.
Yeah, subtle but significant.
So how do you know which syllable to stress? Are there, like, rules?
There are some patterns,
Okay.
but English pronunciation can be unpredictable.
Yeah, for sure.
The guide recommends listening to native speakers
Mm.
and paying attention to which syllables they emphasize.
Okay.
It also says to, like, break down words into syllables
Yeah.
and mark the stressed syllable
Oh, that's a good idea.
as you learn new words.
Yeah, like make your own
Yeah.
pronunciation guide.
Exact.
Okay, I like that. So connected speech.
What's that?
This is about how words flow together
Okay.
in natural conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Native speakers often like blend sounds,
Oh, yeah.
drop syllables,
Oh,
link words together.
Okay.
So like, do you want to go?
yeah.
Often sounds like, do you want to go?
Yeah.
Right. So that's why it sounds like they're talking so fast.
Right. They're not just speaking fast, they're connecting the words to
Okay.
make it smoother.
I see. Yeah. Okay.
And the guide points out that understanding this is
Note.
important for comprehending native speakers
Mm-hmm.
and sounding more natural yourself.
Okay.
It recommends listening for those patterns and practicing, through shadowing.
Shadowing again.
Yeah.
It seems like that technique's really useful
It is.
for pronunciation.
It is.
But let's move beyond pronunciation.
Right.
What about like fluency?
Fluency.
How do you get to that point where you can just speak
Okay.
without, hesitating or searching for words?
Fluency is often seen as like the holy grail of language learning.
Yeah.
This guide offers some insights.
Okay.
It says that fluency isn't about speaking perfectly
Oh, good.
or never making mistakes.
Okay, good.
It's about communicating your ideas
Yeah.
effectively and effortlessly.
It takes the pressure off.
Right.
Yeah.
But how do you get to that point of effortlessness?
Yeah. Is it just practicing a lot?
Well, practice is essential.
Yeah.
But the guide says that the type of practice is important.
Okay.
You should do activities that push you a little bit,
Okay.
but not too much.
So like the sweet spot.
Yeah, where you're challenged but not overwhelmed.
Right. Okay. I like that.
Like working out,
Yeah.
you need to challenge your muscles but not hurt yourself.
Yeah. Good analogy.
Right. And the guide encourages learners to experiment.
With different types of practice.
Exactly.
Okay. So it's all about finding what works for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the guide emphasizes that consistency is key.
Mm-hmm.
It recommends practicing every day, even just for a few minutes.
Right. A little bit goes a long way.
Right. The more you use it, the
Yeah.
more natural it'll become.
Okay. This is all starting to make sense, but I have to ask
Yeah.
about thinking in English.
Okay.
Is it really possible? Like, can you actually switch your brain?
The guide addresses that.
Okay.
And it says that thinking in English is a skill
Okay.
that you can develop gradually over time.
Okay.
It's not about like turning off your native language.
Right.
It's about adding English to your thought process.
But how do you do that?
The guide recommends starting with simple things.
Okay.
Like describing objects around you in English or mentally practicing conversations
Oh, okay. Interesting.
before you have them.
So like train your brain
Yeah,
one thought at a time.
exactly. And the more you immerse yourself,
Mm.
the easier it becomes.
Oh.
Surround yourself with English
Mhm.
and your brain will like naturally start to
Yeah.
process it.
That's fascinating. It's like rewiring your brain.
Yeah, it is.
What about those moments when you're speaking
Yeah.
and you completely blank?
Uh-huh.
You can't remember a word.
Okay.
How do you deal with that?
The guide says, first of all, stay calm.
Don't panic.
Yeah, don't panic.
Right. Okay.
Everyone has those moments.
Okay, good.
Even native speakers.
Okay, that's reassuring. Yeah.
So the guide suggests using circumlocution.
Circumlocution. That sounds familiar.
Yeah, it means describing the word
Right. Yeah.
you're trying to say.
Okay. So like, if I can't remember the word umbrella,
Yeah.
I could say the thing you use to keep the rain off your head.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's like playing charades.
Yeah.
with your words.
Exactly.
But doesn't that sound awkward?
It might feel awkward,
Yeah.
but it's actually a very common strategy,
Right.
even among native speakers.
Okay, good.
And it's a great way to, expand your vocabulary
Yeah.
and learn to express yourself in different ways.
Okay, so it's turning a communication breakdown
Yeah.
into a learning opportunity.
Exactly.
Okay, I love that.
And the guide recommends practicing this regularly.
Okay.
You can even play games with friends
Yeah, that's fun.
to challenge each other.
We've covered so much
I know.
in this part, from pronunciation to fluency, vocabulary, and even confidence.
It's a lot.
But there's one crucial element of speaking English like you mean it
Okay.
that we haven't talked about yet.
Okay, what's that?
Confidence.
Ah, yes.
How do you get that inner assurance?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And the guide talks about this.
Okay, good.
It says that confidence comes from a few things.
Okay, like what?
Mastering the technical stuff,
Yeah.
having good vocabulary,
Mm-hmm.
and most importantly, believing in yourself.
Oh, okay. So it's not just about knowing the rules.
Right.
It's about having that, inner belief.
Yes, that you can do it.
But how do you get that?
The guide offers some advice.
Okay, good.
It reminds us that everyone starts somewhere.
Right.
Making mistakes is normal.
Yeah.
It encourages you to set realistic goals.
Okay.
Celebrate small wins and focus on progress.
Not perfection.
Not perfection, exactly.
Yeah, that's a good reminder.
Right. It's easy to compare ourselves to others and get
Yeah.
discouraged.
Yeah.
But focus on your own journey
Yeah.
and those small wins.
Okay, I like that.
And the guide also says, find a supportive environment,
Yep.
whether it's a language partner, a group, or online.
Right. People who will support you.
Exactly.
That's so important
It is.
to have that support.
It is.
And the guy also says,
Yeah.
confidence, it's not a fixed thing.
Right.
It's something you can develop.
You can build it.
Okay, so anyone can become confident
Yes.
in speaking English.
Absolutely.
That's great.
And this guide gives you the tools to do that.
It's a game changer.
Yeah.
We've covered so much in this part,
So much.
from pronunciation and fluency
Yes.
to vocabulary and confidence.
It's amazing.
Before we wrap up, let's take a quick break.
Okay.
Let all this info sink in.
Yeah.
We'll be back soon with the final part of our deep dive.
Sounds good.
We'll explore even more tips
Okay.
for speaking English like you mean it. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into speaking English like you mean it. We've explored so much already, like pronunciation and fluency, but now I'm ready for the action,
Right. Time to put it all into practice.
Yeah, make a plan.
Exactly.
And that's where this guide is really helpful.
It is. It gives you steps you can actually take.
So where do we begin?
Well, the guide says to start by figuring out your goals.
Why am I doing this?
Yeah. What do you want to achieve? Travel. Connect with people. Get a better job.
That's a good point. Got to have a reason.
Right. Then you got to see where you're at now.
Like, what am I good at? What do I need to work on?
Exactly. Be honest with yourself.
Okay, and then what? How do I actually practice?
The guide has tons of activities.
Oh, cool. Like what?
Well, for pronunciation, it suggests tongue twisters or shattering or recording yourself.
Those are good ideas.
Right.
What if I don't have anyone to practice with?
You can still practice solo.
Really?
Yeah, it's just as effective as long as you're consistent.
Okay, cool.
You can describe images out loud, talk to yourself, even make your own podcasts.
Wow, that's creative.
Right. But if you do have someone to practice with,
Yeah.
the guide says to join groups, find a partner, or do online exchanges.
Oh, and talk to people in real life, too.
Exactly, like at a cafe or something.
Okay, but finding time to practice can be hard.
I know, but the guide has tips for staying motivated. Set realistic goals. Break things down into small steps and reward yourself.
Oh, okay, so don't be too hard on myself.
Right, and if you hit a plateau,
Yeah, what then?
revisit your goals, try new things, ask for feedback.
So it's okay to switch things up.
Yeah, and remember why you started learning.
That's a good point.
And there are tons of resources out there to help you.
Like what?
Dictionaries, apps, websites, even just surrounding yourself with English.
Books, movies, music, yeah.
Exactly. Find what you enjoy.
Okay, so we've talked about techniques, practice, resources,
Yeah.
but what about confidence?
Ah, yes, the key ingredient.
It's one thing to know the rules,
Mm.
but it's another to actually feel confident speaking.
The guide has great advice for that.
Oh, good. What does it say?
Remember, everyone makes mistakes. Perfection isn't the goal.
Right, it's about communication,
Exactly. So shift your mindset.
from fear to curiosity.
Exactly. Embrace the challenge. Have fun.
I love that. What an inspiring way to wrap things up.
Right. Speaking English isn't about being perfect.
It's about connecting with people.
Exactly.
Well, I'm feeling super motivated to go out there and practice.
Me too. Remember, embrace the journey.
Yeah, enjoy the process.
And keep those conversations flowing.
That's a wrap on our deep dive. Thanks for joining us. Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready to unlock some of the secrets of fluent English.
I think we all know that feeling. Like you understand the individual words, but something's missing.
It's like everyone else is in on a joke and you're left out.
Exactly. And that's where idioms come in, right? They're like these little cultural puzzles that can really trip you up.
And today, we're going deep into the world of idioms, tackling a list of 21 that are key to taking your English from intermediate to advanced, really sounding more natural and fluent.
And you know, idioms aren't just about sounding good, are they? They often give us a glimpse into the history and the culture of a language.
Oh, absolutely. So we'll be unpacking not just what these idioms mean, but also where they come from and how to use them effectively in different situations.
And maybe even a few funny stories along the way. So are you ready to dive in?
Absolutely. Let's get started with our first idiom, a blessing in disguise. Have you ever experienced something that seemed bad at first, but turned out to be a good thing in the end?
I think we all have. It's like that feeling when you miss a flight and then you find out it got delayed for hours anyway.
Exactly. Or maybe you didn't get the job you really wanted, but ended up with an even better opportunity. It's those moments when we realize that things happen for a reason.
And that sometimes what we perceive as setbacks can actually lead us to something much better.
It's like the universe has a plan, right?
Right. And speaking of getting to the point, our next idiom is beat around the bush. I think we're all guilty of this sometimes, especially when we have to have a difficult conversation.
Oh, for sure. Instead of just coming out and saying what we mean, we kind of dance around the topic, hoping the other person will figure it out.
Yeah, like when you want to ask for a raise, but you start talking about how much you love your job and how dedicated you are.
Instead of just saying, hey, I think I deserve a raise.
Right. It's that awkward feeling of wanting to address something, but not wanting to be too direct.
So how do we break out of that beating around the bush habit? Any tips for being more direct?
Well, I think being mindful of it is the first step, recognizing when we're doing it, and then just practicing being more straightforward, even if it feels a little uncomfortable at first.
Now picture this. You're at a party, you don't know many people, and you want to start a conversation. That's where you need to break the ice.
Oh yes, break the ice. That's a classic one. It's all about easing that initial awkwardness, isn't it?
Exactly. It's about creating that first connection, like literally breaking through a sheet of ice to open up a pathway for conversation.
And sometimes it can be as simple as a compliment, you know, like, I love your shoes.
Or even a simple question like, have you tried any of the appetizers yet? Anything to get the conversation flowing.
Exactly. And, you know, sometimes humor can be a great icebreaker, too.
Oh yeah, a well-timed joke can definitely lighten the mood.
It's all about finding that common ground, that shared moment of laughter.
Now let's talk about something that can cost an arm and a leg. It's when something is just ridiculously expensive.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Like, have you seen the prices of concert tickets these days?
Oh my gosh, they're insane.
It's like they want you to give up a limb just to see your favorite band.
It's that feeling of, it's really worth that much.
Right? But sometimes you just gotta splurge, you know?
But let's talk about those satisfying moments when you get something exactly right, like when you hit the nail on the head.
Ah, yes, it's that feeling of nailing it, isn't it? Like when you perfectly describe a situation or you figure out the root cause of a problem.
With like that aha moment. And it likely comes from, you know, actually hammering a nail and getting it perfectly straight.
Right. And it's such a satisfying feeling, whether you're talking about solving a problem or just understanding a concept.
So have you ever hit the nail on the head with something recently?
Let me think. Oh, actually, just the other day, a friend was describing a situation they were going through, and I was able to offer some advice that really resonated with them. They said, I hit the nail on the head.
It's like you were able to see the situation clearly and offer the perfect solution.
Exactly. It felt good to be able to help.
Now, switching gears a bit, have you ever been feeling under the weather?
Ooh, I think we all know that feeling. It's that kind of blah feeling when you're just not quite yourself.
Right, like maybe you have a slight cold or just feel a bit run down.
And no one wants to hear all your symptoms.
Exactly. Under the weather is a much gentler way to say, I'm not feeling great.
And I've always wondered where that one came from.
Me too. I've heard it might be related to sailors feeling seasick when the weather was rough.
Oh, that makes sense. Like the weather is literally affecting how you feel.
Now be careful not to let the cat out of the bag.
Oops. That's when you accidentally reveal a secret, isn't it?
Exactly. Like if you're planning a surprise party and someone spills the beans to the guest of honor.
I've always loved the imagery with that one. Like imagine a cat jumping out of a bag and everyone's surprised.
It's such a vivid way to describe that moment of, oh no, I shouldn't have said that.
And it happens to the best of us.
So how do we avoid those cat out of the bag situations? Any tips for keeping secrets safe?
I think sometimes it's better not to know the secret at all if you're someone who tends to blurt things out.
That's a great point. If you don't know, you can't accidentally reveal it.
Exactly. Or, just be extra careful about who you talk to and what you say.
But sometimes you just have to accept that the ball is in your court.
Ah, yes. That's when it's someone else's turn to make a decision or take action.
It's like passing the baton in a relay race.
Exactly. You've done your part, and now it's up to them to decide what to do next.
It's often used in negotiations or discussions, right?
Yes, like when you've presented your offer and you're waiting for the other person to respond.
And sometimes, to get things done, you just have to burn the midnight oil.
Yeah, that's a good one. It means staying up late, working, usually on a project or deadline.
Back in the day, it literally meant working by the light of an oil lamp.
Right. But nowadays, it's more about that feeling of burning the candle at both ends.
But sometimes, you have to face those challenges head on. Like when you have to bite the bullet.
It means doing something difficult or unpleasant, even though you don't want to.
Like going to the dentist, right?
Yeah, exactly. Or having that tough conversation you've been putting off.
But on a brighter note, some things happen very rarely, like once in a blue moon.
Oh, I love this one. It's so poetic. And it actually refers to a real astronomical event,
Really?
Yeah, when a second full moon occurs within the same calendar month. It doesn't actually look blue, though.
Oh, that's interesting. So it's something that happens very infrequently.
Exactly. Like winning the lottery or seeing a unicorn.
Now, let's talk about maximizing efficiency. It's like when you kill two birds with one stone.
Yes. It's about accomplishing two things with one action, isn't it?
Like if you need to go to the post office and the grocery store, and they're right next to each other, you can do both errands in one trip.
Exactly. It's all about being smart with your time and effort.
And sometimes things are surprisingly easy, like a piece of cake.
Oh, yeah. That's a great way to say something was simple and effortless.
It makes it sound almost enjoyable, right? Like it was no trouble at all.
Exactly. Like, that exam was a piece of cake.
But be careful not to put all your eggs in one basket.
Oh, yes. That's a good reminder. It's about diversification, isn't it? Not putting all your hopes or resources into one thing.
Exactly. It's like spreading your risk so if one thing doesn't work out, you have others to fall back on.
Right. Like, don't invest all your money in one stock. Or don't rely on just one person for your happiness.
Speaking of revealing secrets, sometimes you accidentally spill the beans.
Oops. That's like letting the cat out of the bag. Right. But maybe a bit more unintentional.
Right. It's like you just blurt something out without thinking.
And it can be so embarrassing.
It is. Especially if it's a secret that you're supposed to keep.
Oh, for sure. But sometimes it's just a funny slip up.
But it's always important to consider different perspectives and not take everything at face value. That's when you take something with a grain of salt.
Yeah, it means being a little skeptical, doesn't it? Not believing everything you hear.
Especially in today's world, with so much information flying around, it's crucial to be discerning, to question things.
Right. Not everything is as it seems.
So how do you decide what to take with a grain of salt? What are some red flags?
That's a good question. I think it's about looking at the source of the information, Is it a reliable source?
And sometimes, no matter how hard you try, you just have to throw in the towel.
Yeah, that's when you admit defeat, isn't it? You realize it's time to give up.
It's like knowing when to walk away from a fight.
Right. It's not always easy, but sometimes it's the best thing to do.
And have you ever felt like you were barking up the wrong tree?
Oh, definitely. It's when you're pursuing a path or a solution that's just not going to work.
You're putting in all this effort, but you're headed in the wrong direction.
It's like you're lost in the woods and you keep going deeper and deeper, but you're not getting any closer to your destination.
Exactly. And sometimes it takes a while to realize that you're on the wrong track.
It does. But it's important to be able to recognize those dead ends and be willing to change course.
So how do you know when it's time to stop barking up the wrong tree and try a different approach?
I think it's about paying attention to the signs. If you're not making any progress, if you keep hitting roadblocks, it might be time to step back and reassess your strategy.
That's great advice. Now, wouldn't it be amazing to always have the best of both worlds?
That is the dream, isn't it? It's like having your cake and eating it too.
Exactly. It's about finding that perfect balance, that ideal situation where you get the advantages of two seemingly opposite things.
Like imagine working from home, but still having that sense of community and collaboration that comes from being in an office.
But sometimes you just have to throw caution to the wind and go for it.
Oh, absolutely. It's about embracing risk and spontaneity, letting go of your fears and just going for it.
It's like that feeling of freedom and excitement when you decide to do something unexpected.
Exactly. Like quitting your job to travel the world.
And finally, going above and beyond, giving it your all, that's going the extra mile.
It's about exceeding expectations, isn't it? Putting in that extra effort to make something truly special.
Like staying late to help a colleague finish a project or going out of your way to make a customer happy. It's those little things that make a big difference.
And, going the extra mile doesn't always have to be about work. It can be about anything, really.
Oh, absolutely. It's about that attitude of always striving to do your best.
Exactly. And it's something that people really appreciate, whether it's in your personal or professional life.
So we've covered a lot of ground here, explored 21 essential idioms. What stands out to you so far? Any favorites?
So many great ones. I think bite the bullet is one that really resonates with me. It's a reminder that sometimes we just have to face those challenges head on, even if it's uncomfortable. What about you?
I think the best of both worlds really appeals to me. That idea of finding balance and enjoying the benefits of different perspectives.
Yeah, that's a good one. It's a reminder that we don't always have to choose one thing over another. Sometimes we can find a way to have it all.
Exactly. And that's a great note to end on for this part of our deep dive. We've only just begun to scratch the surface of these idioms, but we'll be back soon to explore even more of their nuances and applications.
Looking forward to it. I think for me, bite the bullet is one of the ones that really stands out.
Yeah, I get that. Knowing the history behind it too, like, wow.
It just highlights that kind of courage,
Right.
that we need to face things we don't really want to.
Like steeling yourself, getting ready.
Totally.
And have you ever had to bite the bullet recently?
Oh, all the time. I think we all do, right?
Yeah.
But one that comes to mind is I remember having to give a presentation to, a huge audience.
Ooh, that's tough.
Yeah. And I was so terrified, but I knew I just had to bite the bullet, get up there and do it.
And I bet once you did, it wasn't so bad.
It's always like that, right? The anticipation is worse.
The build-up. And it makes you stronger too, each time.
Oh, absolutely. And that actually makes me think of barking up the wrong tree, because sometimes you think you're, doing the right thing.
Putting in all this effort.
And then you realize, oh, this is a dead end.
You're headed in the wrong direction.
Completely. And that happens a lot, I think, especially today with so much information.
Oh, yeah. It's overwhelming.
It really is. And so it's easy to get sidetracked.
Yeah, to go down rabbit holes.
But I think there's a lot of value in recognizing that you're doing that.
Totally.
And then you can say, okay, well, what other options do I have? How else can I approach this?
It's about being flexible, being adaptable.
Yeah, and I think that leads us nicely to the best of both worlds, because...
Ooh, the ideal.
Right. Because sometimes you do have to choose one or the other, but sometimes you can find a way to get the benefits of both.
To kind of merge them.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, having that flexibility of working remotely, but also still having that in-person connection.
Yeah, that sense of community.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just got to throw caution to the wind.
And just go for it.
Right.
I love those moments.
Those are the best, those spontaneous decisions.
Absolutely. Even if it's a little bit scary, a little bit risky.
Like quitting your job to travel the world.
Oh, yeah. That's a big one.
But so freeing. Right.
It is. And I think those are the moments that really can shape our lives.
Yeah, those leaps of faith.
For sure.
And then it's about putting in that extra effort, going the extra mile.
Yes, it's like going above and beyond.
Right, really making a difference.
Yeah, exceeding those expectations.
So have you gone the extra mile for anything lately?
I've been really focused on a project at work.
Okay.
I've been, putting in the extra hours and really trying to make sure it's the best it can be.
To make it shine.
Yeah.
So we've talked about how to use these idioms, but I think it's also interesting to think about what they reveal about the culture of English speakers.
What do you think?
Well, I think one theme that keeps coming up is hard work, perseverance.
Yeah, I see that. Like, bite the bullet, burn the midnight oil. It's like you push through those challenges.
You don't give up.
Exactly.
You get it done.
And then you also have throw caution to the wind, which is more about that kind of risk-taking spirit.
Yeah, that adventurous side.
So it's interesting. It's like there's that balance.
Of both.
Yeah, you work hard, but you're not afraid to try new things and take a chance.
And the best of both worlds speaks to that, that balance, compromise.
Yeah, like finding the middle ground.
Yeah.
Trying to see things from different perspectives.
And take it with a grain of salt, which is kind of like, don't believe everything you hear, right?
Question things.
Be a critical thinker.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, what would you say are some key takeaways for our listeners?
I think don't be afraid to start using these idioms. You know, the more you use them, the more natural they'll feel.
Practice makes perfect.
Absolutely.
And I think it's important to remember that idioms are more than just words. They're really a window into the culture.
Yeah, they tell us something about the values and the beliefs of the people who use them.
So pay attention to how people use them in different contexts, and you'll start to pick up on those nuances.
Yeah, you'll gain a deeper understanding, not just of the language, but of the culture as well.
Yeah, it really is fascinating to see how much we can learn just from these little phrases. It's like they're little time capsules of culture. So let's talk a little bit more about that connection between language and culture.
Yeah.
Do you think the idioms we use, do they actually influence how we think?
Ooh, that's a really interesting question.
Right. It makes you wonder, like, if these phrases that we use all the time,
Yeah.
if they kind of subtly shape our perceptions of the world,
Yeah.
like spill the beans, for example, does that say something about a culture that values discretion?
Yeah.
Or does using that idiom actually reinforce that value, make us more aware of keeping secrets?
Yeah, it's like, which came first?
The chicken or the egg?
Exactly. Does language reflect culture, or does it shape it?
Or maybe a bit of both.
I think it's probably a bit of both.
Yeah.
You know, it's this kind of back and forth
Yeah.
between the words we use and how we see the world.
And that makes me think about throw caution to the wind, too.
Yeah.
Does that reflect a culture that's maybe more prone to taking risks?
Yeah, or does it encourage us to be more adventurous, you know?
Right. To embrace those leaps of faith
Yeah.
and the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Does that suggest that we like balance, compromise? Or does it actually encourage us to seek out those win-win situations?
Yeah. It's really fascinating to think about.
It's like language is this tool that can both reflect and influence our values and beliefs.
Exactly. And I think that's what makes learning idioms, you know, so much fun. Yeah. It's not just about the words themselves. It's about what they tell us about the culture and about ourselves, really.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into these 21 essential idioms, what would you say is your biggest takeaway for our listeners?
Don't just memorize them, experience them.
Ooh, I love that.
You know, listen for them when you hear people talking, when you watch movies, when you listen to music.
See how they're using them in real life.
Exactly. And try using them yourself. You know, the more you use them.
The more natural they'll feel.
Absolutely.
And it's like anything else you're learning. The more you immerse yourself, the more it becomes part of you. And the more you explore language, the more you appreciate its beauty and its power.
It's true. Language it's a gift.
It is.
You know, it's a way to connect with other people and to understand different cultures.
To build bridges.
Exactly. And idioms are like little gems.
They are.
That add so much richness to our communication.
So keep exploring, keep discovering, and keep diving deep into the world of words.
Yes.
Who knows what treasures you'll uncover.
Happy exploring. And until next time, may your conversations be filled with colorful idioms and insightful discoveries. Hey there, fellow bookworms. Ready to level up your reading game? Today we're going deep, way past just finishing a book.
Yeah, think Reading Ninja. This is your secret decoder ring for unlocking those hidden layers of meaning in anything you read.
And our guide. This awesome piece, 7 tips to improve your reading at an advanced level. Practical advice, not just theory.
Totally. And it uses some really cool examples like switching between Great Gatsby and Marcus Aurelius's Meditations, you know, to really stretch those reading muscles.
I love that, reading against the grain. It's so easy to stay in our comfort zones. What about you? What do you usually gravitate towards? What would be a surprising genre for you?
Oh, good question. I tend to lean towards nonfiction, history, biographies, that kind of thing. But to shake things up, maybe a graphic novel. Or poetry. I don't read a ton of poetry.
I get that. I love a good mystery, but I've been meaning to try more sci-fi, see what's out there. Which brings us to tip number 1, diversify your reading diet. The source is all about exploring different genres, styles, and topics.
Makes sense, right? Like food. You don't want to eat the same thing every day. You miss out on all those flavors and nutrients. Same with reading. Each genre has its own strengths, its own way of seeing the world.
Exactly. And they even suggest this cool activity. Read a news article on climate change, then read a poem on the same topic. See how different forms of writing can change your understanding.
That's such a good idea. The news article gives you the facts, right? But the poem might explore the emotional side, the impact on people. Two totally different angles, but both important for understanding the whole picture.
Totally. Tip number 2 is all about active reading, something I'm always working on. It's about engaging with the text, not just skimming.
Yeah, that's where the magic happens. Active reading is like having a conversation with the author, asking questions, pushing back, making those connections in your own mind.
The source talks about the SQ3R method. Can you break that down for us? Why is it so helpful, especially with really complex texts?
I see SQ3R as a brain hack for better reading. It stands for survey, question, read, recite, review. Especially with dense stuff, it makes you slow down and engage on different levels. Like if you're reading the Federalist Papers, before diving in, you'd survey the structure, maybe skim headings or topic sentences.
So kind of setting the stage, getting an overview.
Exactly. Then you come up with questions based on what you see. What are the main points? What arguments is the author making? Now you're actively searching for answers as you read.
It's like a detective game.
Yes. Then the read phase, where you actively look for those answers.
Wait.
Next, you recite or summarize what you read in your own words. This helps solidify your understanding. And finally, review to make sure you remember the key points.
Intense, but it sounds super effective, especially for those brain bender books.
A mental workout, but a good one.
Okay, tip number 3 always gets me excited. Expanding our vocabulary. They suggest keeping a vocabulary journal, which sounds fun.
Like building your arsenal of words.
But what about those words that just completely stump you, like singularity in Stephen Hawking's A Brief History of Time? I remember just staring at that one, completely lost.
I know that feeling. You got to become a word detective. Context is everything. You can often figure out the meaning using root words, prefixes, suffixes, break it down into smaller parts.
Like solving a puzzle. And once you crack the code, that word unlocks a whole new level of understanding. I had that with epistemology in a philosophy book. I finally broke it down. Episteme meaning knowledge, and logos meaning study. Boom, the study of knowledge.
It's the best feeling. And those aha moments build on each other. Every new word opens up more understanding. You can tackle even more complex stuff.
Brain leveling up. Tip number 4 is where it gets interesting. Author's craft. Understanding the why behind an author's choices.
It's like peeking behind the curtain, seeing the magician's secrets.
Totally. They use 1984 as an example how Orwell creates that feeling of oppression through his writing. What are some clues we can look for to get an author's purpose?
Oh, so many. Tone, imagery, sentence structure, rhetorical devices, they all add up. Like, think about it. A short, choppy sentence creates urgency, tension, right? But a long, flowing one might feel more thoughtful.
Like composing music with words, using different instruments to create different effects.
Great analogy. And you, as the reader, start to pick up on those little cues. You see how everything plays a role. Word choice, pacing, even punctuation.
Like learning a secret language. They suggest analyzing a paragraph from Virginia Woolf's To the Lighthouse to really examine the sentence structure. I challenge you, try that with anything you're reading. Pick a passage and dissect it. It's amazing what you find.
I agree. Ask yourself, what choices are they making and why? You'll see patterns, appreciate the craft even more.
Okay, tip number 5 gets into summarizing and critical thinking. Essential skills for any advanced reader. I'll admit, sometimes I just want to get lost in the story, but slowing down to analyze is crucial too.
It's like the difference between watching a movie passively versus really engaging with it. When you summarize, you got to boil things down to the essence, really understand the main points. Critical thinking is about questioning assumptions, looking at different perspectives, and evaluating the evidence.
They talk about summarizing an article on AI, which is constantly changing. Imagine trying to sum up all those complex ideas.
It's a challenge.
Yeah.
But so valuable. Critical thinking is even more important now. We're bombarded with information from everywhere. You got to be able to tell fact from opinion, bias from objectivity.
It's about being a smart consumer of information, not just believing everything you read.
Exactly. And a great way to practice those skills is joining a book club or discussion group.
Have you ever read Thoreau's Civil Disobedience? Talk about sparking debate. Those ideas about individual conscience versus the state are still so relevant. Imagine discussing that in a book club. Things could get heated in a good way.
I'd love to be a fly on the wall for that one. A book club is like having your own team of experts to bounce ideas off of. You hear different interpretations, challenge your own assumptions. You might discover things you missed on your own.
It's like having multiple lenses to view the same material. Plus, you might find new authors or genres you wouldn't have tried otherwise. And it's just fun to geek out with other book lovers.
Totally. It's a built-in support system for your reading journey.
Speaking of support, ready for tip number 6. This one might surprise you. Reading aloud.
I know, right? It sounds a bit counterintuitive, but trust me, there are benefits, especially for complex texts.
They even suggest trying it with Shakespearean sonnets. To appreciate the rhythm and flow, like adding another dimension to the words.
It is. It forces you to slow down, enunciate clearly, savor the language. Especially helpful with poetry, but even with prose it makes a difference. Imagine tackling a dense philosophical argument out loud. It becomes so much clearer.
Okay, I'm starting to get it. It's like using more of your senses to engage with the material.
Exactly. And remember, we learned language through sound first. Reading aloud taps into that. Plus, think about when we were kids reading aloud together. We learned so much that way.
I loved those read-alouds in school. And the source even says, record yourself reading aloud and listen back.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
It might feel awkward, but it's a fantastic way to see where you stumble, work on pronunciation, improve fluency, like your own personal coach.
I'm adding that to my toolkit. Okay, our final tip. Goal setting. I'm all about goals, but sometimes I'm not sure where to start, especially with something as broad as reading.
I get that. The source uses War and Peace as an example, which is a big one. But they have a great point. Break down big goals into smaller chunks.
So instead of I'm going to read War and Peace, it's I'm going to read 50 pages a week.
Exactly. It feels much less scary.
Yeah.
And you get that sense of accomplishment as you hit those smaller milestones.
And there are great tools to help you track your progress. I love Goodreads. It's so motivating to see what you've read, find new books, share your thoughts.
It's a great community for book lovers.
Yeah.
And speaking of community, they mentioned book clubs again. There's nothing like connecting with other readers and really diving deep together.
It's like a cheering squad for your reading journey. So we've covered a lot. Diversifying our reading, active reading, vocabulary, author's craft, summarizing, reading aloud, and goal setting. It's been quite the exploration of becoming a more advanced reader.
It has. And I hope our listeners feel inspired to take their reading to that next level.
Me too. You know, as we wrap up this part, it makes me think about the power of reading. It's not just about knowledge. It's about understanding the world and ourselves better.
That's beautifully put. It's about empathy, critical thinking, opening ourselves up to new perspectives and possibilities.
Exactly. And it's a journey that never really ends. There's always something new to discover, a new connection to make.
And with the right tools and techniques, we can keep growing as readers our whole lives.
I love that. So, as we wrap up this segment of our deep dive, I want to leave you with a thought. What's one book or article you've always wanted to read, but felt intimidated by?
What's that one that's been sitting on your shelf, whispering promises of adventure?
Maybe it's a classic, a dense philosophical work, or something scientific that's always intrigued you. Now is the time to embrace the challenge.
Use the tips we've discussed and approach it with confidence, curiosity, a sense of adventure. You might be surprised.
Now, before we move on to part 2, we want to hear from you. What's one aha moment you've had while reading? Share your stories, your insights, your favorite reading techniques. We'll be back soon with more on how to level up your reading game.
That reminds me of when I was wrestling with this really dense philosophy book, and I was just stuck. I tried recording myself reading it aloud just to see, and honestly,
What happened?
it was like someone else was reading. I picked up on all these things I totally missed before.
It's amazing how just changing how you interact with the text can do that. Like unlock it. Speaking of unlocking, tip number 6 is all about reading aloud.
Yeah, I know, right? Sounds a bit old school.
Yeah, like elementary school. But the source makes a good case for it, especially for becoming more advanced readers.
Essentially.
They even suggest reading Shakespeare out loud, like those sonnets,
Oh, yeah.
to get the rhythm and flow. What's the idea there?
When you read silently, don't you think you kind of skim? Your mind races ahead.
Oh, for sure.
But reading aloud, you got to slow down. Enunciate every word. Really savor the language. Like it adds this whole other dimension.
Almost like performing it, bringing it to life. So you pick up on those subtle things you might miss otherwise.
Exactly. And it's not just poetry. Think about a tough philosophical argument or even a legal document. Reading it aloud can make it so much clearer.
Okay, I see what you're saying. It's like using more of your senses to really engage with it, which helps you remember it better too.
Right. And we learn language through hearing first, don't we?
Yeah.
So reading aloud kind of taps into that. Plus, it's like when we were kids reading aloud together.
Yeah.
Remember how much we absorbed?
I do. Those were great. And the source even says to try recording yourself reading aloud and listening back.
I know it sounds a little weird.
Yeah, but it could be really helpful.
Absolutely. You can hear where you trip up, work on pronunciation, get more fluent overall. It's like having your own personal coach.
I'm going to try that. Okay, last tip from the source. Goal setting. I'm a huge believer in goals, but I'm not always sure where to begin with reading. It can feel so overwhelming.
Yeah, I understand that. They use War and Peace as an example, which, yeah.
That's a big one, intimidating. But their point is, break it down.
Exactly. So instead of I'm going to read War and Peace, maybe it's I'm going to read 50 pages a week.
Right. Way less daunting.
And you get that feeling of accomplishment as you hit those smaller goals.
Which keeps you motivated. And there are great tools to help, like Goodreads. I love that. Seeing your progress, finding new books, sharing your thoughts.
It's such a great community for book lovers. And that brings us back to community in general, right?
Yeah. Book clubs, online groups, even just friends you swap books with. It makes a difference.
Totally. Having other readers around you, it's like a support system.
A cheering squad for your reading.
I like that. And with all this talk about tips and goals, it's important to remember, reading should be fun.
Oh, absolutely.
We can get so caught up in improving that we forget to enjoy a good book.
So true. It shouldn't feel like work.
It's like anything else. You got to find that sweet spot between challenge and pleasure.
All right. We've done a deep dive on these 7 tips, but before we go, I want to ask you, the listener, what really stuck with you?
Was there one that was like, aha, that's it?
Or maybe a challenge you're ready to tackle now?
Want to hear your thoughts. Reading is a journey, and the best ones are shared.
So let's keep talking. What are your favorite ways to level up your reading game? We'll be back with more soon. So we've been talking about all these great tips for becoming better readers. But sometimes, even with the best techniques, you just hit a wall.
For sure.
You get those books, those articles, even just certain paragraphs, and you're like, ugh, this is a struggle.
Yeah.
And it can be so discouraging. You're excited to read something new, and then it just doesn't click. What do you do when you run into that, when you're just not connecting?
Well, first you got to remember, it's okay. It's normal to struggle with certain things.
Right.
It doesn't mean you're a bad reader or that the writing is bad. Sometimes it's just not a good fit for you.
I like that, giving yourself permission to not love everything.
Exactly. Once you accept that, you can look at those tougher texts with more, maybe a little kindness towards yourself and curiosity.
So instead of getting frustrated, you ask, okay, what's making this hard for me?
Yeah. Is it the vocabulary, the sentences, the topic itself?
Right.
And once you figure out what it is, you can start to find ways to deal with it. Vocabulary. Maybe you grab the dictionary or look for clues in the surrounding words. Tricky sentences. Break them down into smaller parts. Or read them aloud. See if the rhythm helps.
You're like a reading detective, using your tools to crack the case.
I love that. And sometimes the best thing is to just walk away for a bit.
Oh, yeah.
Go for a walk, listen to music, do something completely different. Come back with fresh eyes.
That distance can really help. It's like with a painting, you step back to see the whole picture.
Exactly. And honestly, remember that reading should be fun. If you're always fighting with it, feeling frustrated, maybe it's time to try something else.
I agree. A different genre, a new author, or even an old favorite that always makes you happy. There's so many amazing books out there. There's something for everyone.
For sure. The important thing is to find what you're curious about, what sparks your imagination.
As we wrap up this whole deep dive into reading, it keeps coming back to this.
Yeah.
It's so personal.
It really is.
We can learn techniques, we can get better at it, but at the end of the day, it's that connection you make with what you're reading.
It's like connecting with another mind, even if they lived centuries ago, exploring new worlds, understanding ourselves and the universe better.
A journey of discovery. And like all good journeys, the best thing is to go with curiosity, a sense of wonder, and be open to getting a little lost along the way.
Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and never lose that sense of wonder. That's the magic of reading.
That's all for this episode of The Deep Dive. We hope you found some inspiration to level up your reading game. Until next time, happy reading.